Well, hi,
Hi,
Vasu.
Ma Bhavna.
And hello, friends. Welcome to this dialogue with Vasumati. And I've done work with Vasu, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. But I feel like the first place would be to have Vasu please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been a therapist for many years, and I'm somebody who really loves to work with women. I feel very much that I love feminine energy, and I see that the space in the world right now for women to grow, to express themselves, to discover themselves is much more probably available than it ever was before. And that's why I like Tantra as a vehicle, because I feel Tantra is very feminine in its nature. It's in many ways, it was a wisdom that often was taught from women or through the feminine, even if it was in a masculine body, because it embodies feminine aspects like love, like a devotion, like intelligence, um, like sensuality, which is it's not a mental philosophy, it's not a mental path, but it is a psychological path, and often we miss that. And so I've been very interested in the psychological path, particularly because always women have had really intense conditioning around their value, around their worth, around that a woman is only complete if she's with a man, and that women have had to repress so much of themselves, so much of their own ability, their own intelligence, their own sensuality to fit into societal and cultural ideas of how and what a woman is and what a woman should be. And in general, in the early traditions, this was a secret tradition. These were initiations. These were wisdom traditions passed on, oral traditions, where we would be trained in a way of meditation or a way of understanding the universe. It is so much more than a few sexual positions and how to please your partner and make sure that he doesn't leave you for another woman. It's really not that. And so the psychological aspect is, how do we use Tantra to dissolve our shame, to have pleasure without guilt, to deal with our trauma? Because when women have not been treated as well as they could, many women have had unwanted touch or been devalued. And this leaves a trace of either trauma or shame or some kind of wound that closes us. So that's why, my work has always been to support women. And I do a lot of relationship work to support healthy relationships and to support men to find also their loving, gentle, feminine side without losing their masculinity. So this has been my life work. And I enjoy, as I get older, really working with women because I feel like I'm an elder and I have things to share because I've certainly made many mistakes on the path.
You're a wise woman.
I
You're a
probably am
wise,
by now.
empowered
I've
woman.
made mistakes, I've done horrible things, but it's so important to learn, where does that come from? And for
That
me,
is
psychological understanding gives you the skill set and gives you the ability because, everyone has a shadow, and women also have a shadow. And until we resolve those issues that have to do with our shadow, which we'll talk more about, we lose half of our energy. If we
wow.
only try to look good and to please and to not show our dark side, we're not total, we're not complete.
Yeah, so many of us can relate to walking in those shoes.
And fear, there's so much fear to really step into yourself. Fear of being alone, actually. I think deep down, when we look at it, and this is where the psychology comes in, what are my fears as a woman? What am I most afraid of? Might be not being loved. It may be being unsupported. It may be being misunderstood. And then out of that fear, we conform.
Yeah. And the shame as well, right? Vasu, you touched on that earlier. A lot of us, is this something which is more women tend to experience this more
No,
just
but
because?
I think men compensate for it in a more effective way because the society gives places for men to compensate for their shame, whereas women then tend to carry that shame. And yeah, we're going to work with the power grid and the power dynamics in relationship, the shame-based dynamics in relationship. And I think until women really start to work on themselves, shame is their baseline. Shame about anything, shame about being, shame about desiring. You know, women have desires. That's not allowed.
Shame about being born a woman, it's
Even
like,
that. I work in
know,
China, and that's one of the biggest things. They carry
yeah,
shame about being a woman, or shame that's come through the feminine line. You carry not only your
generations,
shame, you carry your
very
mother's
much
shame.
so.
Now, if you
Yeah,
don't know what it is, how on earth can you work with it? So when I say
absolutely.
psychology, it's getting to know all the different parts of yourself, your
That's,
conditioning, your shame, your
yeah.
needs, your desires, the whole thing.
That's beautiful, Vasu. You've started to unfold for us why you call this the psychology of Tantra. Why is this workshop or this entire retreat called that? And I have to be honest, probably more like others, we've never heard Tantra addressed that way. It seems like it's been mostly about men and women, and
Well, it's
you
about the
know,
body and being ecstatic and, having moments of ecstasy. It may happen that way, but I'm not that interested because, as I recall from Osho, I remember him saying when it was asked, well, what is agony? What is ecstasy? And he'd say the same. And that's the psychology to see that you have to realize that when you get attached to something, no matter what that is, there's a grasping. And when there's attachment, you're going to lose that thing. So that surrender is to recognize impermanence and not to cling, not to grasp, to find that place inside you where life flows through. These are deep issues. Tantra
that's
is so much more than sexual gymnastics.
wow, and Vasu, you're also touching on this grasping and, all of these, you may call them flaws. People tend to
They're
call
not
them
flaws,
flaws, right? They're
fear-based,
really not, but
fear-based, fear-based, because you see, when you don't really come inside yourself, there's a sense of emptiness, a sense of lack, that something is missing. And often we think, oh, what's missing is love. What's missing is a relationship. And you go outside and you look for all of that. And sometimes it's great, and then it hurts, and then they leave, or then there's difficulties. But there's a deeper place, which is that when you go inside and you feel what's that lack, it's a very deep inner journey. And you learn to find deeper places in yourself of being with you. Females have been taught to look out, that it's all about relationship, and that relationship is out there, not in here. And somehow shifting that and starting to be more resonant with yourself is such a beautiful journey. That doesn't mean that you no longer have relationships. It means you have better ones, because you could tolerate the flow of coming together and going apart without panic and getting hysterical and freaking out.
wow. And that is a big one, right? For women, the
Sure.
coming together and then breaking apart. So it almost reminds me of the
Well,
separation.
it's not breaking apart. It's, there's a natural flow of moving together and moving apart. That periods of love and intimacy can be followed by periods of aloneness and time for yourself. And I think there's a real wisdom in that. And if we weren't so fearful or so mistrustful, because we need constant reassurance. Yes, I love you. Yes, I love you. So if somebody's not there and that reassurance, I love you is not there, you again have to face that emptiness. And if there's no resource, no scaffolding, then it's frightening.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. So Vasu, you've started to kind of lay out for us in some ways, and maybe I, question just to step into it a little bit deeper would be good here. What people, like when women come to this workshop, what can they expect? And so you're touching on the psychology, but you're also touching on something very deep about it's about this awareness about themselves, but also how they relate with themselves, with others, the separating, the merging. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about what's the nugget, or what people can expect to experience in this workshop?
Well, many Tantra workshops is all based upon your relationship with another. This is not. And because we're with women, there's so much more about using their field of female energy to support you to get to know yourself, to really start with that intimacy that always looks for someone else. You can start to be intimate with yourself, getting to know your rhythm, getting to know your body, embodiment, coming into yourself, sitting in yourself, standing in yourself, and then asking, what's that self? What does that self feel? What does that self think? What does it desire? What does it need? Does it express itself? Does it not? Is it afraid? Will it be judged? These are things that block us, that keep us separate from ourselves, from our deeper self. For me, it's all about finding depth,
And
slowing
I think,
down, coming in, turning in, finding that inner place, because it's all in there. It's just that no one's ever helped us to relax enough to move into your body with an interior sense of awareness, with a sensitivity. And we blocked our sensitivity because, we've been hurt. And no one wants to be hurt. But also, we don't want to be numb, deadened, anesthetized.
wow. So the
I know
slowing
that many
down.
women have felt that with addiction to another, addiction to love, addiction to work, addiction to substance. And then there's this inner struggle where one part of you is fighting another part of you.
So a lot of it is, it sounds like, Vasu, to understand, to become aware of these things and start to honoring some of these blocks and understanding them. That's key to
And just
releasing them, right?
identifying them. Honoring is already going too far. You honor something when you identify it, when you name it, when you recognize it.
So in some ways, deepening the relationship with yourself, my experience has been, it just deepens the relationship you have with the other too,
Of
doesn't it?
course. But instead of going first to the other, we go first to the self.
That's the
No, it
difference.
makes all your relationships so much better, so much better. And there isn't this clinginess. Women have been notoriously very fearful of losing and feeling like I only can exist if there's another, if I'm reflected through the eyes of another. But if I'm alone, I'm not. This is so deep in females' conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the challenges all women can relate
Well, I
to,
think women go
you
through
know.
stages in life. There's the early stage, what they call the maiden, then there's the lover stage, and then there's the mature woman. And in all of these, there are tasks that you go through. But one of those learnings underneath it all is to start to respect and honor and value yourself without having external validation. Because this addiction to external validation never really allows you to be with you. And be with you is meditation. It's not that you have to sit somewhere and close your eyes and chant mantras and all of that. It's simple.
Yeah.
That's all
And but
good. That's all good. That's in fact we'll do all of that because it's so pleasurable. It's just
well,
so pleasurable.
well, speaking of pleasure, Vasu, I know I remember you once talking to me about the sensuality aspect of Tantra for women. can you touch on that as well? What does
Well, I
that
think
mean?
sensuality has been denied us in our society. We've been allowed to be sexual only to a degree, as much as pleases men. But sensuality has been looked on as a dark side, as something that is a bit demonic, especially in more repressive societies. And sensuality is such a door to the woman's soul that for some women, working on their shadow self is working on their anger. But for many women, working on their shadow self is working on their sensuality and their vulnerability. It's been pushed down. It's been covered up with false sense of, I don't need anyone, or control. So, that part, it hasn't been developed very easily, especially in Western societies. Western societies are quite repressive, and they're very masculine, value-based, patriarchal, and sensuality is very, very feminine. So owning that is so beautiful. It's so empowering. But it brings up a
Yeah.
lot of things. It brings up shame. It brings up grief. One of the griefs is, oh my God, how I've denied this to myself, how I have missed huge bits of myself, so many parts of myself not lived. And there's grief, and we have to, we hold it for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost feels of us, and I'm kind of putting myself in those shoes because I've walked these shoes myself too, where you're playing so many roles in society as a woman, right? So those of us who work, in professions or in companies or run our own businesses, there's a certain way to get things done and move things. We're fitting into a world that's been primarily dictated by attributes that are masculine, that
Sure,
are mostly
sure,
masculine,
absolutely.
and so we're fitting and we're successful, and then we have to come back home, or we're in the bedroom, or we're with
But wait a
ourselves.
minute, it's successful to a degree.
Mm.
Inside there often is a feeling of emptiness, of loneliness, of depression, of unsatisfied, of a lack of fulfillment, because
Mm.
we are not men, and we can live at the masculine side, but it takes a toll. We might feel burned out, we might feel exhausted, there's no rest, there's no pleasure.
So true. So true. So it's discomfort and
It's a
in having
balance thing. It's a balance thing.
the balance thing and being able to shift, first recognizing it and understanding what impact it's having on you, and then
But
being
there's the
able to.
opposite. You see, there's also the opposite. There are women who've never been allowed to develop their power, who've always lived in a very strict mold of domesticity, marriage, children, the home, and they have a lot of frustrated creativity, a lot of frustrated desire to be themselves, to express themselves, to be alone, to not have to consider other people all the time. It's not only the women who are over masculine, there are also the women who are over feminine, who
Yeah.
miss their masculine, who miss their sense of freedom, adventure, um, aliveness, not only fitting into this caretaking, nurturing role can be marvelous, can be extremely suffocating.
Very much. Yes, Vasu, that makes so much.
I think it's
Yeah.
about balance, because women have to answer to the world, but answer to their inner as well. And there always are a lot of demands on women, because woman is the nurturer. She carries the nurturance. That's her nature. But then, as long as you do that, but if you don't nurture yourself, it catches up with you. You'll have burnout, you'll have depression, you'll have body illnesses, you're out of balance, you'll have hormonal disturbances.
The key is balance, as you're saying, the
And the balance
balance.
comes from knowing yourself, and that it's intuitive. You'll know if you start to listen to yourself. There's so much intuitive wisdom in women. There's so much intuitive power. But if we're not in tune with ourselves and in touch with ourselves, we can't get that. We're always looking outside. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to think. Did I do it okay? Insecurity plagues women. Insecurity. Deep, deep. Am I doing it right? Have I said it right? Will they like it?
Validation
Will
that
I
you're
be
seeking from
judged?
outside.
And then,
Yeah.
and who's to say, actually? Who's the judge of that? You are, but you've given that, you've contracted that out somewhere else.
So true. So true. Wow, this is so exciting, Vasu. This is
I think so.
what I'm hearing is your approach would be to have women get the relationship with themselves become the focus, and real uh, intimate relationships with themselves
That's the
to
word. Intimate.
enable them to play all of these different roles that they would they tend to play or would like to play, or and it's almost the fear of sometimes not moving into relationships because you don't want to lose control or all of those things. How can you develop a sense of comfort first with yourself, your boundaries, so you can approach whether they work relationships, with a relationship with a man or with your friends or whatever that may be. It's
Life. This is about your relationship with life because it's big. It's how you approach life. And the other thing is, the way that why I like to work with women is because I can work from a feminine place. I don't have to do, I can follow a certain rhythm. It's very intuitive. It doesn't have to be heavily structured. Of course, we always have certain amount of structure because too unstructured is also leaking energy. But by just discovering a very smooth and flowing and fluid way that also allows women to get in touch and find enjoyment in themselves. And being
beautiful.
supported by other women is so nice. It's so nice. We have so much to give each other. When we get over competing with each other for whatever scarce resources are out there, and we really become each other's friends and fellow travelers, we have so much to give each other.
And you actually create this magical environment. Oh, no, I don't know how you do it, but you do it.
Because I don't do anything. I just sit in my feminine space and I let it happen. See, I think at the certain depth, there's a certain trust that you just can allow. That's, in a way, surrender. You don't have to be so busy doing. Because at this point in my life, I'm not so worried what do people think of me. I've sort of, I think I'm too old to worry about that now. I more think, what do I want to do? And to be respectful of other people.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
Yeah, I don't other reference so much. I self-reference with that.
See that, and that's what this is about.
Well, I
This
didn't always,
workshop.
but I suffered from not.
Oh,
I've
Vasu,
been
this is
very
going to be exciting.
neurotic. I think in my life, my relationships took me into some very deep and very neurotic places. And I needed the psychology to understand, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? What is my terror of abandonment? Where does it come from? And I
Yeah,
think most women have terror of abandonment. And you've got to know where it comes from, and you've got to be able to work with that.
yeah, yeah. Vasu, actually, I wanted to maybe, if you might touch on one other question that's coming for me is, I know this workshop probably is going to be attended by some of the women who attended the previous workshop, the birth of the tantric
So
woman. Um, and I'm wondering if you can maybe just, this seems like a standalone workshop, but I'm sure there are some uh, points there might be some carryovers that women who've done this before with you might feel this is a very natural progression for them, while others
Well, I
who've
would
never done work
focus,
with
there's always body practices. There's a very standard way of entering the feminine. There's certain body practices, there's certain ways of opening your voice, there's certain ways of opening your pelvis, there's certain ways of doing an inner inquiry. All of these support this integration of the deeper feminine. So we'll do all of that. Have I designed things particularly? No. No. In fact, at this point, I haven't actually designed it. When I sit in the room, I've got a lot, I've got a lot of data. And when I sit in the room, I have a general idea, then I allow it to happen. I allow it to find its own life. I don't overstructure. If I need a structure, I've got structure. I have a theme, but I don't have to have a structure. And a lot of it is looking into yourself and looking also, we'll do a bit more shadow work, looking into what is your dark side? What is the side of you you're most afraid of? What is the side of you that you haven't yet met?
That's definitely something which is going to be new in this workshop that, we didn't do as much of it in the previous one. So that feels like a very natural progression into the next
Yeah,
phase.
we'll look at the balance in our lives of our masculine and our feminine, and the part of us that allows pleasure and the part of us that blocks pleasure. And I don't mean physical pleasure. I mean life pleasure, love, creativity, expression. All of that is pleasure. Intimacy, showing yourself, not hiding yourself.
I'm so glad you're talking about that, because somehow
women try to play
pleasure.
small. They try to not be too, because we were all told, don't overshadow men. Play it small. Don't be too this, don't be too that, don't be too demanding, don't be too intelligent, don't make a man feel small. We were all told to stroke a man's very fragile ego.
Yeah.
And, maybe that was good at that time. But I think in doing so, we kept ourselves very limited. Now, the fear is that when we become full, robust, we're going to step on everyone's toes. No, you're not going to step on everyone's toes, because with that robustness, we're going to also develop more attunement, presence, tenderness. This is the idea that was sold us. If you really be yourself, you're going to be too much. You're going to step on people's toes. Nobody will like you. You're going to be rejected. And it's nonsense. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, that's why you shrink. You're like, okay, if I've got to have everyone else like me, I've got to behave in a certain way,
Right.
speak in a certain way, and shrink myself. And I love what you're saying, that to be in your power doesn't mean that you're out there and
it doesn't mean that you become a monster and insensitive.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might, when you've repressed something for a long time, when you first let it go, it's not going to have refinement. But, you're going to become more subtle with it in time. More refined, more delicate, but strong. So yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful journey. That's what I'm thinking. And you end up trusting yourself more. It's like developing self-trust.
That's wonderful,
Like you don't make
Vasu.
mistakes, but when you do, you can own them. You can own up to who you are.
Yeah, and if there's something that is blocking you, feel just work on it. That's part of the journey too.
Right.
And when it releases, when it you come back and you kind of try something else with that, is at least what I've as I've worked with you, Vasu, those are some of the things that I've learned, that we all, whether we if we could design the perfect life for us, we somehow would have been able to sit down and do it. But we walk through life. There are experiences that we go through. There are people we meet, and all kinds of things happen. And you come at a certain point, and you just decide for yourself: is this the kind of is this?
Well, the thing is, you need a certain wisdom to make the right decisions for yourself. And when you don't have that wisdom, when you come to certain decisions, you panic, because you don't know what part of you to tune into to find the answer. And then you go, oh, I need somebody to tell me. And I want to change that with women. Women can be more self-reliant.
It's beautiful.
So,
And
Bhavna, we're running out of time. Ask me one more.
Yeah, actually, I'm feeling like this might be a great place to wrap up. I know we're just 30s. Maybe, do you want to say anything else as we wrap this up?
I think there's a fun aspect. I think for me, the place that I love is when I just let go and I just feel free and I feel playful and I feel spontaneous and I'm just delighting in my own energy. I'm, just having fun. And that's what I want. It's not all serious and hard work. It's delighting in who you are and enjoying yourself, enjoying the people that are there, enjoying music, enjoying your body. it's pure happiness. It's delight. That's what I hope. That's the place I think that when that clicks in a room,
Yeah.
you just know that people have stepped out of the darkness and the heaviness.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we can all connect and be silly and have fun
In a
and
way, be
celebrate.
yourself and dance and play and move and hug and not second guess yourself all the time. Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay?
Love it, Vasu. Love
Okay.
it. Thank you so much.
You're
Looking
so
forward to
welcome.
it.
And I think what it brings is spiritual and mental and emotional health. You know, your body is more regulated, you're not dysregulated, your sleep is good, your food is good. You have a natural rhythm, a natural intelligence that takes over.
Natural intelligence.
That's what I'm
Wow.
looking for. That you
Beautiful.
know where to go, who to be with, what to eat, what not to eat, what practices to do, things like that.
Love it, Vasu. Love
Okay,
it.
sweet.
Thank you so much. And
You're
we'll see
welcome.
you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay,
Very
bye-bye.
nice.